Hey All-Stars. So I'm going to read 2 chapters to you today. So previously we talked about the recipe for turning kids into mice, and now we're going to read a couple of chapters, but I want you to think, as I'm reading these 2 chapters, what would you do in the little boy's shoes? He's stuck in this room full of all of these witches who want nothing more than to turn him into a mouse. And what would you do if you were the other little boy that I'm going to introduce to you right now? Okay, Bruno Jenkins disappears. The Grand High Witch was starting to talk again. "I am now going to prove to you," she said, "that this recipe is working to perfection. You understand, of course, that you can set an alarm clock to go off at any time you like. It does not have to be 9 o'clock. So yesterday I am personally preparing a small quantity of the magic formula in order to give to you a public demonstration. But I'm making one small change in the recipe. Before I'm roasting the alarm clock, I am setting it to go off not at 9 o'clock the next morning, but at 3:30 the next afternoon, which means 3:30 this afternoon. And that," she said, precisely glancing at her wristwatch, "is in precisely 7 minutes' time." The audience of witches was listening intently, sensing that something dramatic was about to happen. "So what I am doing yesterday with this magic liquid?" asked the Grand High Witch. "I will tell you what I am doing. I am putting 1 droplet of it into a very squishy chocolate bar, and I am giving this bar to a repulsive, smelly little boy who is hanging around the lobby of the hotel." The Grand High Witch paused. The audience remained silent, waiting for her to go on. "I watched this repulsive little brute gobbling up the squishy chocolate bar, and when he had finished, I said to him, 'Was that good?' He said it was great. So I said to him, 'Would you like some more?' And he said yes. So I said, 'I will give you 6 more chocolate bars like that if you will meet me in the ballroom of this hotel at 3:25 tomorrow afternoon.' 6 bars?" cried this greedy little swine. "I'll be there. You bet I'll be there." "So the stage is set," shouted the Grand High Witch. "The proof of the pudding is about to begin. Do not forget that I am roasting the alarm clock yesterday. I am setting it for 3:30 today. It is now," she glanced again at her watch, "it is now exactly 25 minutes past 3, and the nasty little stinker who will be turning into a mouse in 5 minutes' time should at this very moment be standing outside the doors." And by gum, she was absolutely right. The boy, whoever he might be, was already rattling the door handles and banging on the doors with his fist. "Quick!" shrieked the Grand High Witch. "Put on your wigs! Put on your gloves! Put on your shoes!" There was a great rustle and bustle of putting on wigs and gloves and shoes, and I saw the Grand High Witch herself reach for her face mask and put it on over that revolting face of hers. It was astonishing how that mask transformed her. All of a sudden she once again became a rather pretty young lady. "Let me in," came the boy's voice from behind the doors. "Where are those chocolate bars you promised me? I'm here to collect. Dish them out." "He is not only smelly, he is also greedy," said the Grand High Witch. "Remove the chains from the doors and let him come in." The extraordinary thing about the mask was that its lips moved quite naturally when she spoke. You really couldn't see it was a mask at all. One of the witches leapt to her feet and unfastened the chains. She opened the 2 huge doors. Then I heard her saying, "Why, hello, little man. How lovely to see you. You have come for your chocolate bars, have you not? They are all ready for you. Do come in." A small boy wearing a white t-shirt and gray shorts and gym shoes entered the room. I recognized him at once. He was called Bruno Jenkins, and he was staying in the hotel with his parents. I didn't care for him. He was one of those boys who is always eating something whenever you meet him. Meet him in the hotel lobby, and he's stuffing sponge cake into his mouth. Pass him in the corridor, and he's fishing potato crisps out of a bag by the fistful. Catch sight of him in the hotel garden, and he is wolfing a dairy milk bar and has 2 more sticking out of his trouser pockets. Once more, Bruno never stopped boasting about how his father made more money than my father and that they owned 3 cars. But worse than that, yesterday morning I had found him kneeling on the flagstones of the hotel terrace with a magnifying glass in his hand. There was a column of ants marching across the flagstones, and Bruno Jenkins was focusing the sun through a magnifying glass and roasting the ants one by one. "I like watching them burn," he said. "That's horrible," I cried. "Stop doing it." "Let's see you stop me," he said. At that point I had pushed him with all my might, and he had crashed sideways onto the flagstones. His magnifying glass had splintered into many pieces, and he had leapt up shrieking, "My father's going to get you for this!" Then he ran off, presumably to find his wealthy dad. That was the last time I had seen Bruno Jenkins until now. I doubted very much that he was about to be turned into a mouse, although I must confess that I was secretly hoping it might happen. Either way, I didn't envy him being up there in front of all those witches. "Darling boy," cooed the Grand High Witch from up on the platform. "I have your chocolates all ready for you. Do come up here first and say hello to all these lovely ladies." Her voice was quite different now. It was soft and gentle and absolutely dripping with syrup. Bruno was looking a bit bewildered, but he allowed himself to be led up onto the platform, where he stood beside the Grand High Witch and said, "Okay, where are my 6 chocolate bars?" I saw the witch who had let him in quietly putting the chain back on the door handles. Bruno didn't notice. He was too busy asking for his chocolate. "The time is now 1 minute before 3:30, announced the Grand High Witch. "What the heck's going on?" Bruno asked. He wasn't frightened, but he wasn't looking exactly comfortable either. "What is this?" he said. "Give me my chocolate." 30 seconds to go!" cried the Grand High Witch, gripping Bruno by the arm. Bruno shook himself clear and stared at her. She stared back at him, smiling with the lips of her mask. Every witch in the audience was staring at Bruno. 20 seconds! cried the Grand High Witch. "Give me the chocolate!" shouted Bruno, becoming suddenly suspicious. "Give me the chocolate and let me out of here." 15 seconds! cried the Grand High Witch. "Will one of you crazy punks kindly tell me what this is all about?" shouted Bruno. 10 seconds! cried the Grand High Witch. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have ignition! I could have sworn I heard an alarm clock ringing. I saw Bruno jump. He jumped as though someone had stuck a hat pin deep into his bottom, and he yelled, "Ow!" He jumped so high that he landed on a small table up there on the stage, and he started hopping about on the top of this table, waving his arms and yelling his head off. Then suddenly he became silent. His whole body stiffened. "The alarm has gone off!" shrieked the Grand High Witch. "The mouse maker is beginning to work!" She started hopping about on the platform and clapping her gloved hands together, and then she shouted, "This smelly brat, this filthy scum, this horrid little louse will very soon become a lovely little mouse." Bruno was getting smaller by the second. I could see him shrinking. Now his clothes seemed to be disappearing. Brown fur was growing all over his body. Suddenly he had a tail. And then he had whiskers. Now he had 4 feet. It was all happening so quickly. It was only a matter of seconds only. And all at once, he wasn't there anymore. A small brown mouse was running around on the tabletop. "Bravo!" yelled the audience. "She's done it. It works. It's fantastic. It's colossal. It's the greatest yet. You are a miracle, oh brainy one." They were all standing up and clapping and cheering, and the Grand High Witch produced a mouse trap from the folds of her dress and started to set it. Oh no, I thought. I don't want to see this. Bruno Jenkins may have been a bit of a stinker, but I'm dashed if I want to watch him having his head chopped off. "Where is he?" snapped the Grand High Witch, searching the platform. "Where has that mouse got to?" She couldn't find him. Clever Bruno must have jumped down off the table and scampered off into some corner or even down a small hole. Thank heavens for that. "It matters not," shouted the Grand High Witch. "Silence and sit down." Next chapter, The Ancient Ones. The Grand High Witch stood on the very center of the platform, and those dangerous eyes of hers traveled slowly around the audience of witches, who were sitting so meekly before her. All those over 70, put up your hands," she barked suddenly. 7 or 8 hands went up in the air. "It comes to me," said the Grand High Witch, "that you ancient ones will not be able to climb high trees in search of Gruntle's eggs." "We won't, your grandness. We were afraid we won't," chanted the ancient ones. "Nor will you be able to catch the crab cruncher who lives high up on the rocky cliffs," the Grand High Witch went on. "I can't exactly see you sprinting after a speedy cat springer either, or diving into deep waters to spear the blabbersnitch, or striding the black moors with a gun under your arm to shoot the grabblesquirrel. You are too old and feeble for those things." "We are," chanted the ancient ones. "We are, we are." "You ancient ones have served me well over many years," the Grand High Witch said, "and I do not wish to deny you the pleasure of bumping off a few thousand children each just because you have become old and feeble. I have therefore prepared personally with my own hands a limited quantity of delayed action mouse maker, which I will distribute to you, the ancient ones, before you leave the hotel." "Oh, thank you, cried the old witches. "You are far too good to us, your grandness. You are so kind and thoughtful." "Here is a sample of what I am giving you," shouted the Grand High Witch. She fished around in a pocket of her dress and brought out a very small bottle. She held it up and shouted, "In this tiny bottle is 500 doses of mouse maker. Is enough to turn 500 children into mice." I could see that the bottle was made of dark blue glass and that it was very small, about the same size as the ones you can buy at the chemist with nose drops in them. "Each of you ancient ones will get 2 of these bottles," she shouted. Thank you, oh most generous and thoughtful one," chorused the ancient witches. "Not one drop will be wasted. Each of us will promise to squish and squall up and squiggle 1,000 children." Our meeting is over, announced the Grand High Witch. Here is the timetable for the remainder of your stay in this hotel. Right now, we must go out onto the Sunshine Terrace and have tea with that ridiculous manager. Next, at 6 o'clock tonight, those witches who are too old to climb the trees after Gruntel's eggs will report to my room to receive 2 bottles each of Mousemaker. My room number is 454. Do not forget it. Then, at 8 o'clock, all of you will assemble in the dining room for supper. We are the lovely ladies of the RSPCC, and they are setting up 2 long tables especially for us. But do not forget to put the cotton plugs up your noses. That dining room will be full of filthy little children, and without those nose plugs, the stink will be unbearable. Apart from that, remember to behave normally at all times. Is everything clear? Any questions? I have one question, Your Grandness, said a voice in the audience. What happens if one of the chocolates we are giving away in our shops gets eaten by a grown-up? That's just too bad for the grown-ups, said the Grand High Witch. This meeting is over, she shouted. Out you go! The witches stood up and began gathering their things together. I was watching them through the crack and hoping to heaven they would hurry up and leave so that I might be safe at last. Wait! Shrieked one of the witches in the back row. Hold everything! Her shrieking voice echoed through the ballroom like a trumpet. All the witches suddenly stopped and turned and looked towards the speaker. She was one of the taller witches, and I could see her standing there with her head tilted back and her nose in the air, and she was sucking in great long breaths of air through those curvy pink seashelly nostrils of hers. Wait! She shouted again. What is it? The others cried out. Dog's droppings, she yelled. Just then I got a whiff of dog's droppings. Surely not, the others shouted. There couldn't be. Yes, yes, shouted the first witch. There it is again. It's not strong, but it's there. I mean, it's here. It's definitely somewhere not too far away. What's going on down there? Shouted the Grand High Witch, glaring down from the platform. Mildred's just got a whiff of dog's droppings, Your Grandness, someone called back to her. What rubbish is this? Shouted the Grand High Witch. She has dog's droppings on the brain. There are no children in this room. Hang on, cried the witch, called Mildred. Hang on, everybody. Don't move. I'm getting it again. Her huge, curvy nose holes were waving in and out like a pair of fishtails. It's getting stronger. It's hitting me harder now. Can't the rest of you smell it? All the noses of all the witches in that room went up in the air, and all the nostrils began to suck and sniff. She's right, cried another voice. She's absolutely right. Dog's droppings it is, strong and foul. In a matter of seconds, the entire assembly of witches had taken up the dreaded cry of dog's droppings. Dog's droppings, they shouted. The room is full of it. Pooh! Pooh! Why did we not smell it before? It stinks like a sewer. Some little swine must be hiding not so very far away from here. Find it! Screamed the Grand High Witch. Track it down! Rootle it out! Follow your noses till you get it! The hairs on the back of my head were standing up like the bristles of a nail brush, and a cold sweat was breaking out all over me. Rootle it out! The small little bump of dung! Screeched the Grand High Witch. Don't let it escape! It is in here. It has observed the most secret things. It must be exterminated immediately. And that's the end of that chapter. What would you do if you were this little boy? He's cornered. He's got how many witches that are seeking him out? What do you think is going to happen to him? Is he going to become a mouse? I don't know. So make your prediction, and tomorrow we will read the chapter entitled Metamorphosis. And if you don't know what that means, I will tell you what metamorphosis means tomorrow. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.